What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fast 40 NASCAR Breakdown Podcast from DFS Army. We're taking a look at the Dover Wurth 400, and we've got the GOAT himself, the mystery man, Taco DFS, to break it all down for us. The run in NASCAR has been spectacular, Taco. Really having a lot of fun this season.
Yeah, we had a piston takedown yesterday.
Yep. A piston take. I turned another profit yesterday as well. We had a piston winner.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was another good race yesterday. A lot of great calls in the notes by yourself and Brady. Love that you did a breakdown. So if you are subscribed to DFS Army, you got a VIP breakdown of Xfinity yesterday. Really helpful.
Yes, keep these Friday qualifyings for Saturday races going. We love those.
I loved it. I was up late night listening to the smooth sounds of your voice. Had good dreams after that too. So I don't know if those two things were connected, but it happened.
Okay to admit it.
Just saying. Now it is. So we got what we saw yesterday. We're at Dover. Why don't you break down for me how Dover plays differently than other tracks? Because that's really the first and primary thing we like to look at here. So what's the difference between Dover and your average intermediate track?
See, well, first off, it's a mile long. So usually we group these into the short track package. But this year, Bristol, which is probably the track that's most similar to Dover, Bristol and Dover are going to be ran in the intermediate package. And what makes them different from the other short tracks is, of course, the big 24-degree banking. They go a lot faster. They don't have to brake as much. It's a very chaotic sort of track, but it's also concrete. Those are the only two concrete tracks on the surface. But comparing a half-mile track to a mile-long track is still going to be really difficult to do. Now, this year's Bristol race, it's not on dirt, so we actually have a pretty good race to go off of. But I mean, you saw the tire wear at that race. That was ridiculous. That was like a late model race.
Is that because
we're not going to get that again?
Is that because it's concrete, or is there some other reason? Like,
no, it was like the resin and the Goodyear package for you. It was a weird race, but I kind of liked it. But that lead just never stopped changing. Now, Dover, I found to be first and foremost. The note I always leave behind for myself here is just play the old people, play old dudes. Like, they get it. Not that old dude.
Oh, wait a minute. You don't even know. Wait,
your Hamlins, your Truexes, the guys that absolutely shit on everyone at Bristol because they can manage tire wear better than everyone.
When I promoted this podcast on Twitter, I wrote Jimmy Johnson Day ? Old guys. Love it. Let's take a look at what's happened here in the past to see if it can give us any ideas about the present. So
there's an asterisk I gotta throw up on this track because this track has been absolutely plagued by rain in recent years. We have not had a practice session here since like COVID.
See, look at I made this larger, so hopefully people who are watching this podcast can visually see the screen and what's showing here. But just to describe this, every time we do this Fast 40 show, we break down the averages by 5 starting positions or the averages by starting position to understand if this is a play the guys from the back type of track. Now, yes, we're going to throw that asterisk on this, right? But, the pattern is very, very clear here.
Yeah.
Drivers starting at the front do really well.
But look at the front half. Like if you compare it to like other short tracks, usually it's way more concentrated up front. It's really spread out because qualifying can be a little weird, and our qualifying was absolutely weird. We've got some guys starting up front that are not going to finish up front. We got some guys starting in the rear of the field. A lot of guys starting in the rear of the field that will absolutely not finish in the rear of the field. I found it's very hard to block here. If you're fast, if you have a fast car, you're going to find your way to the front. There's no getting around that. So you've got guys like Kyle Larson starting in the 20s, and they're just going to shoot their way up to the front is what's going to happen.
There's almost too many of those.
Just go down to the next table. That's the one that really matters. It's just This place is sort of similar to Richmond, not only in like the tire wear aspect, but just the good cars just make it to the front. Like, you really don't want to get cute here. It's really predictable. You kind of just know who's going to be quick here, and the problem is everyone knows it. Everyone knows it's JGR and Hendrick. Those are the teams to beat. Basically, almost nobody else. Like, yeah, Trackhouse looks pretty decent here this week, but for the most part, it's really hard to envision a scenario in which it's not a top 5 that's just pure JGR and Hendrick.
The problem with that, Taco, is you got to afford it. So we do have to be able to find, so this is very clear, right? 110 plus. In other words, the best ranked drivers tend to do really well here. We saw yesterday in Xfinity that, the shitters are falling laps behind.
Yeah, that's why you see the 30th and back guys averaging just horrible numbers.
Yeah, they're falling laps behind. This isn't the time normally when a Kaz Gralla winds or JJ Yelly type winds up, in 10th place at the end, and you're like, how the fuck did he get there? Whoa, that's crazy. That does not seem to happen here. So these guys starting in the way back, it's not because they're starting in the back. They can move up. The problem is their cars are slow. But, when we take a look at practice, the thought around the industry is, hey, it was warm out, it was cold out, it's different conditions.
It's like 20 degrees different. It is insanely different.
Dude, I
very noisy. It's like, do you really think Blaney's going to go set the world on fire? I mean, we saw it with AJ Allmendinger yesterday. Like, some of these guys are just trimmed out. They're going to be garbage in traffic. Like, I don't believe a lot of this.
Blaney was faster than everybody in practice. Number 1 overall in every category. He certainly could keep doing that. There's nothing to say he won't. So, I don't care.
I kind of just don't want to let practice influence what I already know going into this track. Yeah. And it's literally every single time I look back after a Dover slate, it's like, yeah, just don't even get cute. You know what's going to happen before anyone even qualifies, before rosters are set.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So you know what's going to happen. So don't get cute. I love that.
The problem is DraftKings knows this, and they price these guys up tremendously.
Yeah. So let's take a look at where they're salaried and where the odds are. You've got Kyle Larson and Martin Truex kind of hanging out as your super favorites. Byron and Hamlin, all of those, that quad of drivers, all sub 10x on their win odds. So these guys are your odds-on favorites.
Those guys are going to be leading all the laps. And then you've got just a group of excellent place differential plays. Like, they could also lead tons of laps, and they have led laps.
Some of these guys are great place diff plays. Larson and Truex starting 21st and 50. So right off the bat, we got our classic how many DOMs today question that we get every single breakdown. What is a Dominator? Well, if you're subscribed to DFS Army, you already know we have a system where our optimizer looks for Dominators, and it will allow you to specify how many Dominators are in the lineup that you create. A Dominator is somebody that we feel can lead laps and dominate the race. We saw it yesterday. If you needed Cole Custer as your Dominator.
Usually it's the top 10 guys, or usually we're looking for guys who will dominate early. At this track, you're marking Kyle Larson as the Dominator. It doesn't matter where you started. He will be up there like stage 2.
The Dominators are starting in the back too. Chase Elliott at 29, he can get there. Ross Chain at 22, Chastain, Christopher Bell at 33. Yes, please. And then the front line. What do you do with Kyle Busch? This is a really interesting race. I think I'm already formulating my strategy, but part of it is like embrace the unexpected.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just embracing the expected.
Well, I mean, what is the expected? Is the expected that Blaney
is that Kyle Busch and Blaney are going to get yoinked? Like, they're not going to, it's not like Martinsville style where you could just like start up front and just lead up front kind of for free. The long run speed is going to kick in, and I really doubt Kyle Busch has anything here. I would be shocked. If anything, I guess Blaney, I mean, he showed the speed in practice for what it's worth, but he's also been like pretty good at this track historically. At least like recently.
Don't you think Kyle Busch, though, he's got some pride?
He was like really good in this race last year for most of the race.
He's not even going to be that high owned.
But he was in like he had a decent stretch of form to start the season before he kind of cooled off. Right now he's so cooled off that he's in a glacier. So this is like the worst possible pole sitter you could ask for. It reminds me of Brandon Jones from yesterday, but like even worse. But I do think a lot of people are kind of in the same boat with me because he's just been so ass. So I could imagine people aren't really on Busch or Blaney. I think it's all the 10K plus guys. They're just going to be attacked, but I'm not entirely sure which one of these guys gets super popular. I think William Byron is probably looking like the consensus early Dominator, but then it's just so easy to pair them with any of these other place differential guys. I think that's the chalk lineup construction.
I've seen enough of these races to know that, yeah, we think it could be Blaney. He's starting second. And then it's going to be Hamlin or Byron or my favorite of them, Tyler Reddick, sneaks in there. And it's like the least likely of the whole group. And all of a sudden, Tyler Reddick is leading. You don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, a track like this is that we only go to it once a year. But it's just, you don't see surprises like that as much here, really. Like, I mean, we had Stenhouse finish second here a couple of years ago. That was ridiculous. Other than that, I can't really think of many like upset finishes. It really is like the cream rising to the crop at a track like this.
I don't know. I think the question is really going to, I actually think we'll do better identifying kind of punt plays that can help you rather than trying to guess between these studs, because it is a guess. We've got play stiff guys that if they get to the lead are going to absolutely score massive. And there's so many of them expensively. You know, Christopher Bell starting 33rd and Chase Elliott 29th. Chase coming off the big performance.
Yeah, the big win at Texas finally broke through.
Larson and Truex with play stiff upside. I mean, it's crazy. It's too much. It's actually overwhelming. It's overwhelming to the senses.
I mean, even the guys who I wanted to be kind of hopefully different and sneaky with, and I probably will because of their salary, are guys like Bowman, who's priced up massively. He's 9,300 for Bowman. Insane.
That is
like I think he's so expensive that like it kind of puts him low end enough to where I still definitely want to play him. The dude's an actual threat here. He's in a Hendrick car. It's nice, but like, man, affording these guys is going to be insane. And I've got kind of just my own strategy is pretty clear to me. If you look down low, there's some chalk place differential plays. I'm going to look at them and I'm going to wave and I'm say, sorry, I'm going all the way to the very bottom.
So you're not playing Suarez.
I mean, I'll play some of them. I mean, Suarez is like some good value and stuff, but I think they'll end up being so popular.
Zane Smith too popular. I think
no, that's where I'm going. I'm going that 5K range and I'm hanging out there because I want to be able to afford these guys. Like I want to be able to be overweight on a guy like Bowman, who no one's gonna play because he's so expensive, and guys like Elliott and Chastain are right there. Because you still got to find a way to be different, even when everyone knows who the good plays are. Like you still got to have your leverage.
Yeah, we'll get into it. I do think that this affordability zone here is going to be really important because some of these guys are going to fall multiple laps behind, and they're going to be shit, and they're going to shit all over your lineup.
Yeah, so it's nice when you want to play people that other people don't. But a week like this, everyone kind of knows who to play, and so finding leverage becomes much harder. I mean, it's just so easy to go, oh, Chase Elliott starting 29th. Cool.
I think we'll be able to unfriend a lot of drivers on this track as well. I think that's a bit of how I want to play it. Just kind of get rid of, I don't even want to waste too much energy on some of the shitters that have no chance, that are starting a little too close up and that kind of thing. I think maybe that'll help the mix a little bit, not having to, because I do think at the stud zone, you're going to have to really run through lots of different combinations. It's going to be really hard. You can only afford really one, at most two of these types. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it is. That's how the salaries work. So you're going.
I believe you can go to three. I truly believe you can play three. I love that lineup construction. I know people hate it. And I don't know if optimizers will like it or not. That's That's kind of the problem I'm seeking, or I'm looking at here.
You'll have to show me how that math works as we break this thing down. We'll make a lineup later, and you show me how I can get. I guess you need one of the studs to kind of be like a cheaper one, or like a Bowman or something. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how that comes together. And so maybe we have a dead zone in the middle that we have to avoid in this, 8 to 7K range. I don't know.
That's what it's looking like.
Yeah.
And you see there's 400 laps here. So that's, the pricing makes sense. But when there's 400 laps and place differential to be had, it's just,
It's going to be some big scores.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Let's get into.
Can't miss them.
We looked at the odds. Let's just scroll down here and see if there's any interesting odds spikes for cheap. Does anybody stand out as, that was surprising when you saw their win odds or their top 10 odds? Like, see here, I don't know.
Not really. I guess it's weird that Larson actually got his odds improved when he qualified 21st. Which is weird because Bell qualified 33rd and his odds went from 11 to 23. Like, he fell off a cliff. I think a lot of people went into this week thinking JGR because of that Bristol performance. Like, the top 4 guys were all JGR. But right now, Hendrick is the favorite, like kind of the clear favorite. And Larson and Byron are the 2 favorites to win this race. Chevy is minus 120 to win as a whole. So even though, this is, historically, yes, this is the Hendrick track. But like lately, the last few years, like Truex has been really amazing here. Hamlin just always good. Tracks like this. He won at Richmond, won at Bristol. Like him and Truex just lapped the field. They could have raced for 600, 700 laps and they would have just let them all.
It's going to be some decisions will have to be made here, Taco.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump into this breakdown. Let's go driver by driver here and kind of just get a broad overview of how we're going to attack this track. Again, we've already kind of talked about there's lots and lots of wonderful place differential studs to pick from. Will and when do they get to the front? With 400 laps, even like a Bell is going to be up. If he has the fastest car, he'll be up there within the first 50 or 100. It doesn't. You said on this track that it's no problem passing. If you're fast, you're moving to the front.
There's multiple grooves to work with. A track that's actually very similar to this one that correlates really well is Homestead, and we saw Bell win at Homestead deep in the playoffs last year. He's done well. Both of the next gen races here. Makes a lot of sense from starting 33rd,
Yeah. Most definitely.
He probably has the least Dominator upside of these guys up top, I would say. So that could be a reason to fade maybe because it almost doesn't matter how much place differential you get if there are 2 or 3 guys that score like just 100 plus lead laps.
Domination always going to outweigh place diff when you've got 400 laps.
Yep.
To go around. It's just a lot of laps. You need to get those 2 dominate. There's probably going to be 3 drivers that dominate. Actually, let's jump back to historical.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, I forgot to look at a really important tab here. So let me actually do that. And let's jump back to the historical win rate here. And let's look at
notice all that Kevin Harvick being out of the field actually like significantly changes
Harvick's extreme domination of this place. So the last time out, let's say this is a weird one to judge though, because again, starting position, but you see here, all right. So look at all these stud names, but you couldn't afford this as your top 6.
Now remember the starting position kind of random because I assume that it was based off of, I think we had I don't remember, but it may have been based off of Talladega if they did a draw.
Look at these numbers.
Postponed to Monday.
You had 3 drivers. And it's funny, this is not a lineup that could have won. There's no way you were affording this, but 3 drivers all put up close to 100, and Willie B 120 fantasy points, Chastain 99, Truex 95. Then you had some weirdness, and then how did Blaney get there? How did Berry get there? Did he lead a lap? No, he just had place diff points. So it would have been probably something like this trio, and then the place diff guys that were cheap. 23rd, 28th, 27th with these 40s and 50s. But you see what's happening. The play stiff guy only getting you 50. So in this case, you needed 3 studs and 3 kind of duds probably to make it work. Play stiff guys getting you 40s and 50s, but the dominators are getting 100. So it's going to be a tale of, it looks like the way this, let's see if that continued. But it does appear to be a tale of like the stud drivers putting up big numbers. There it is again. Chastain, Elliott, Busch, Truex, Bell. All names we know and love as studs. Bowman in there. All getting some dominator points. Lead laps or fast lap. Truex, all the fast laps. Couldn't afford it. Taco. You can't play all those guys in the same lineup. So how do you make it work? You had to kind of hit on some of these cheaper guys who put up these 40s.
Yeah.
Let's see the next one. And again, you said some of these were rain shortened or had some issues?
No, they're like postponed or just qualifying canceled, practice canceled.
Yeah, you need at least 2 DOMs, I would say. Yes, at least 2. I mean, it does seem like it's 3, but I wouldn't force 3 because you're starting to get into a zone where it's going to be...
Yeah, forcing something like that would be kind of ridiculous.
It's going to be a very specific lineup that you build.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm aiming for with my strategy, but it's hard to do.
Here's another one.
The DS forcing anything like that.
Same exact story played out in 2021. Larson dominates the shit out of it. 170, one of the biggest scores you're ever going to see on DraftKings. Bowman dominates as well. Unowned Bowman as usual.
Kevin, can you tell me something that all 4 of the top drivers in this race have in common?
In this race or in this one that I'm looking at here?
Yes.
Oh, you're talking about the Hendrick super crew?
Yep. Looking like JGR at Bristol. So yeah. Hendrick, this is like the best track.
Is that just like every time? Elliott, Busch, Truex, Hendrick, Byron, Truex, Hamlin, Chastain sneaking in there. So yeah, Hendrick did seem to do really well here. Again, look, here's another one. 1, 2, 3 dominators. Let's go to the next one. Only one. And you're saying
you're going to see a lot of those 2 guys if you go any deeper.
Yeah,
it's going to be all Harvick, all Jimmy Johnson.
They owned it. Yeah, and these races don't really mean as much when we go beyond 2021. So,
well, when you go back, anything 2021 and past, it's the last gen of car.
Yeah,
but when you've got a track you only go to once a year, there's not as much data to pull from as a track we go to twice a year.
That's like watching the Star Trek with Captain Kirk instead of the Star Trek with Picard. Because
there's also I think last year in the coverage they're talking about how like Penske doesn't really give as much of a shit about this kind of race because they really hyper focus on the playoff tracks. So this could be a throwaway week for some championship contending teams, but I'm not really sure who that would apply for outside of maybe Penske. I mean, they do have a front row starter this week.
All right. I almost want to read your slate notes. I'm going to read it because you're too shy to read it. I'm going to read it.
I'll read it.
Dover's an incredibly unique track that's sort of like Bristol if it were twice the size. It's tricky to navigate and tends to favor older drivers who know how to manage tire wear. We haven't had a proper practice session here in years as rain has plagued this race consistently. The practice data we did get is sort of useless with the temperature having been significantly hotter during the race than they had in the morning practice on Saturday. It's hard to block here if the car behind you is faster and we see the best of the best cars from the top teams rise to the front and finish where they run. It should be a relatively green flag race with occasional single car or small wrecks. That's important. Relatively green flag race, just occasional wrecks, bang ups, this and that will happen, but this is not the type of track where you see a lot of carnage. You've got to nail the dominators. This is a weird slate because top dominators are starting from the back. So, a lot of what we just talked about.
Yeah, and also we'll mention that while the carnage level is low, the wrecks here tend to be pretty intense and like race ending. We saw Kaz Grala almost die yesterday, which was pretty cool.
I mean, that he didn't die was the cool part, Taco.
But
we didn't want it.
We saw it do it on fire yesterday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a very fast track, but the hits here can be intense. Yeah. So it's not like Martinsville where you have like a little spin out or something, and they get on just fine. usually you hit the wall here, you're toast. But we can't predict who's going to hit the wall.
This is a steep track as well. So the guys who drive well on steep tracks do a little bit better here. No flat track, steep.
It's a different package now too, so we can essentially just lump it in with the intermediate tracks.
Which brings us to our best driver in NASCAR, most expensive guy, Kyle Larson. 5-1 odds to win. He is the odds-on favorite.
Yep.
Currently to win this race, starting 21st overall. It's crazy. Of course, he's the most expensive, rightfully so. He's got play stiff upside. He's got. If he doesn't dominate Taco, it doesn't matter if he finishes a second. If you pay, this is to understand how this race is going to work. Just the math. I do the math part.
Yeah.
I let you focus on who's good at driving, but the way that math works, you are not going to be able to play the most expensive guy unless he dominates. So that is what we talk about when we say a dominator is Larson's great, but he needs to dominate. That rhymes. I just made that up on the spot. I used to do a lot of freestyle rap, and I see the skills are coming back.
Hey,
Larson's great, but he's got to dominate. Then you've got Truex. Same idea. Starting 15th, awesome play, killed it last year. Like, I don't know, 5-star play. Great.
I was absolutely lights out at Richmond and Bristol too, which is like the really the only data points we have to go off this season because we're not using Texas at all. Maybe
we should use intermediate tracks.
Yeah, but we're not using Texas. There's no tire wear. It's a shit track. I promise you it's not going to look at Texas. I'm really only looking at the tire wear races at Richmond and Bristol, particularly Bristol because it's the same package, but it was a bit of a
tell me about
race. There's just not enough to go off of. I'm even looking at Homestead last year.
You talk a lot about tire wear tracks, and we want the old grizzled vets in here. They know how to manage tire wear. Just explain how that works exactly. Like, you're driving around. How are you managing tire wear?
I watched that Harvick podcast he did with all the JGR guys together. Okay. And you'd see guys like Ty Gibbs just in amazement at how Truex and Hamlin were so good at like Bristol with the tire wear. And they're like, yeah, we love the tire wear because we can basically just smurf on you guys. Like, it's really easy for them because if you just know how to manage a race comfortably, it's going to put you at such an edge over the younger, more aggressive guys that just don't really get it. It's really just one of those tracks where just having reps here is so huge because it's one of, if not like the trickiest ovals on the circuit to drive. It is a really, really tough track to drive on. It's just really it's not a good spot for a rookie to have his first race out. You see a lot of the times these guys crash out or just have a really bad run on their first attempt here before getting the hang of it.
I love that you went core on Denny Hamlin. I see you got Willie Byron. I don't really see that big of a difference between these two guys, to be honest with you, but it looks like Byron will be higher owned.
Yeah, Hamlin, I expect him to be popular.
I think you've just got it for JGR, and that's why you're preferring Hamlin.
I think people are going to take one of Byron or Hamlin and then take the place differential guys after them, but they will think, okay, we'll need an early Dominator or maybe set up an optimizer to do it because let's be real, not many people are hand building anymore. So yeah, Byron seems like the consensus early Dominator until Larson catches up. So it's going to be like a Byron Larson lineup or a Byron Elliott lineup, Byron Bell. Like those are going to be kind of the most common setups because it kind of is a little bit uncomfortable to have a lineup that's like Larson and then Elliott and then like Chastain. It's like, where's your early Dominator? But I kind of prefer Hamlin if he's going to be lower owned as an early Dominator. And I think both of these guys, Byron and Hamlin, are going to start up front and probably just run up front all day long. That is their MO. They're really safe. I think in cash right now, I have Truex and Hamlin. It's a little bit scary. No, I don't really like cash. I limited my cash entries this week because the lineup I really wanted to make was a little bit off, like a little over salary. And it's like, It's just hard to account for all these guys, because not having any Hendrick scary, but also not having any JGR with their vets is also kind of scary.
The tricky thing about cash is I look at this track, and we crushed the cash lineup yesterday.
There's too many options.
But it's too many good options, and really, it's the same issue that I have with tournaments, which is if you might need a Dominator. If a Dominator is chalky, you will have needed them.
Yeah, if Larson leads 175 laps, you're toasted on him.
Yeah, you will have needed that. So it's a little tricky. And again, right now, my sensibility is we've gone through sort of the first group here. You see the second group: Bell, Chastain, and Chris and Chase Elliott. Mm-hmm. And what they all have in common is just incredible play stiff upside.
Yep. And they're good here. Like they've led tons of laps. Chastain just led a bunch of laps here recently, like in 2022. That
was the second part. Dominator potential. I feel like was it? I don't remember. Maybe it was last week where maybe it was yesterday. Maybe it was last week. Oh, yeah. It was. Yeah. Even in yesterday's track, you had a guy starting, I think it was 26th, who was a play stiff upside kind of guy. And that was that rookie.
Mm-hmm. But he was just in a fast car, so it was hard to stop him from getting to the front.
He gets to the front and he leads a bunch of the track. So it's like, hey, he's my play stiff guy. And he was leading the race. Yeah. And, he put up a monster score. And that's what could happen. When you combine domination with starting 29th like Chase Elliott, oh my goodness, it becomes a score for the ages. And if you didn't have him, forget it. You're done. Go home.
Yeah, that's what makes this 1 mile track way different than the other 1 mile tracks like New Hampshire, the shorter tracks like Martinsville, even like Richmond is like you can kind of block for a while and get some lead laps there. You can absolutely dominate starting 20th. That is,
yeah. Which tells me that
recently
your pole sitter is more risky, and even just playing these guys starting at the front just because they're starting at the front, if you didn't have some expectation that they're actually good here, is probably a sketchy way to attack it. And you've outlined a pretty interesting approach here, which is to fade Blaney and Kyle Busch starting first and second.
Yeah, if it was one of those tracks like a Martinsville or something, you'd be at a very high risk of getting fucked over if you don't take those guys, but I really doubt that they hang on for very long.
Yeah. Bowman in the middle, though. So between Blaney and Busch, it's kind of like starting first and second, and your play here is, maybe go a little under, although, again, they look pretty low-owned to begin with. And then Bowman starting ninth should be unowned.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at him, it's like, okay, just play him on FanDuel. Obviously, he's going to score better on FanDuel as well. But,
and it's cheaper.
Him being 9,300 might make him so low-owned he becomes leverage because the dude is insane here. A win and 5 top 5 finishes in his last 6 races here. Didn't race here last year. Of course, with his injury, he was out for a few weeks. I think Barry was in his car. So, yeah, he subbed for Chase Elliott and Bowman finish last year. Yeah, he ran top 10.
Yeah,
Hendrick is just so good here that even like the weaker Hendrick cars are super duper interesting. I kind of wish that Bowman was a little bit lower owned or a little bit cheaper, but then his ownership would be there. So I kind of just like attacking the ownership here and saying Bowman was really good. Like if you look back at Bristol towards the end of the race, who was fast? Bowman was flying up there at the end. I think he ended up finishing like 4th.
I love the sneakiness of it. He's not going to be owned at all. Dooley's asking about the difference between FanDuel and DraftKings, and it's definitely something we talk about a lot here on these breakdowns. It's definitely something we like to talk about a lot, but I mean, take me through it. So it's really just that FanDuel doesn't give as much juice for the play stiff
and there's 0 fast laps. And also the field, everyone has a super duper high floor at a track like this because there are 400 laps. That's if you finish all the laps, that's everybody starts with 40 fantasy points and then scores from there. As where DraftKings, there's no floor. This floor is like 0. It makes it quite different.
So basically, the big difference being play stiff, that those points we get for play stiff on DraftKings have a much more intense effect on the end result than they do on FanDuel. And on FanDuel, I mean, just keeping it real, Bowman's just massively cheaper. So there's also really on FanDuel, what we're trying to pay attention to is just where they're going to finish more than anything else. You're just kind of paying attention to, hey, how is this guy going to finish in 5th place, 7th place, 9th place? Where they finish? Where DraftKings, it's domination and fast laps and other things that affect the scores significantly. So the end result is you could play. Actually, it shows it on the historical. Actually, I'll say that for another time. But if you look at the historical, you'll see that the skew towards drivers starting for the front of the back is very different than on DraftKings. But yeah, Bowman's sneaky.
Another important thing to look at is this is the worst track of all tracks when it comes to percentage of drivers finishing on the lead lap, with a whopping 33% of the field on average. Yeah. With Bristol being number 2 in that category, 35%. So these short, steep tracks, the guys in the back are just going to get lapped like tremendously. So taking these like chalk place differential plays is very risky.
I'm going to make a prediction right now, Taco. Mm-hmm. The winning lineup will have drivers in it that aren't on the lead lap.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So Bristol, there's 5 guys on the lead lap?
Well, I'm not, even if it's not that extreme, if we're even just going 33%, like it's not like if your guy gets lapped, you're finished. If you're just one lap behind, you're probably still in like 18th place. You're still hanging around.
That's part of my rationale for just going all the way to the very bottom.
Yeah. When you see Zane, though, down 5-6 laps, you're going to be like, oh, man, this guy's not getting me more than 15 points. That's the concern with some of those guys. If that happens, we'll get to those guys. Yeah. But that's my concern if that happens. There's some interesting plays here. We're in an interesting zone because I think this is the low-owned sort of shit zone for this week. If you're trying to get 2 or 3 in from this crew of studs, right? The way you make it work is you kind of have to fade most of this and go down to the lowest end. So not to say that that's what we should or are going to do, but that's definitely how the math works on the salaries. Mm-hmm. Talk about Busch and Blaney being potential fades, but yeah, if they hold on and dominate a bunch, basically from here, if you don't dominate a ton of this race, if you're one of the top 5, 6, 7 drivers and you don't absolutely dominate and finish in the top 2 or 3, you will be an afterthought for sure. So that's something to keep in mind. Joey Logano, not much interest there, I see.
So here's the thing. Most of these races, you look at the front row or even the pole, and they'll have like much better stats than the other positions around it. This track, it's just like any other position. The pole sitter doesn't really have that significant of an advantage here. Front row doesn't really either. It's not like Martinsville in that sense where anyone can lead off the front. If you're not the fastest car, you're not going to be dominating this race. It's just kind of how it is.
Here we go. I brought the chart back up on screen.
Mm-hmm. You can see at other places like the averages would be kind of out of this world. For the top
Martinsville,
they had a shorter track, but
Martinsville, this number was like in the 70s for the first and the second guy to go, and then it dropped. Yeah, here it doesn't like really
50s,
40s. It's neutral where you start from, how many points you score. It's just kind of
the only
thing that doesn't score well. There is a group that does not score well very specifically though, Taco.
Yep.
Like if you're starting from the back, unless you're really, it's been everybody, but maybe we just haven't gotten races with Christopher Bell or with those guys or Chase Elliott starting in this group. But starting from the back has not been what you want here historically. So again, who knows? We'll see if that holds up on this one with some unusual back of the Packers. But what about Ty Gibbs? Ty Gibbs is really interesting. He's JGR. He's the brand name that you want. Yep. He's got some play stiff upside.
He's basically like Bowman of JGR, except for the sites are flip-flopped. He's more expensive on FanDuel than DraftKings. So I think he'll be pretty popular on DraftKings, and he's a pretty good play overall. He did very well at Bristol, despite the lack of experience there.
Then you've got Tyler Reddick, another kind of quote unquote younger driver here, starting fourth. I think he will be the most overlooked of the top group.
Yeah.
Like, Blaney, Bush, they'll be owned more than him. Who's starting third? I can't remember. Yeah, Byron, of course. So yeah, that group will get more ownership. What if it's Tyler Reddick who's that early dominator?
It could be, honestly. I guess I'm kind of discounting him a bit this week. I just can't find a whole lot to hang my hat on with him. He's never led a lap here. He doesn't get fast laps here. Just all his stats here are just really bad. And I don't think 23XI gets that JGR speed. And even then, even JGR looks like they're probably they're both way better than everyone else, but it does seem like Hendrick has the edge on JGR overall here, especially with it not being postponed to a Monday where Martin Truex Jr. can win for free.
Here, Larissa says Kyle B gets a top 10.
That'd be a win for him.
I mean, that would be a loss if you played him in your lineup, though. Yeah, that's not good for...
Do we think he leads 50-plus laps? I just really doubt it.
If he finishes 9th and led 50 laps, he's not going to be in the winning lineup.
Yeah.
If he falls back like that, it's going to take it away. So it's really tough. Kyle Busch probably
not getting fast laps either. Usually, he's averaging 5 fast laps this year.
He starts on the pole. He's going to lead a few laps, probably, maybe. Blaney catches him real quick. It's going to be, I think, mass chaos at the front early on. I think we're going to see a lot of lead changes quick until that driver who has the best car gets his shit together and drives up. And we'll probably see, my guess is, based on the past, is we'll see one driver that clearly has the best car.
And if there's if there's going to be a caution, usually a track like this would be early on. If we get that caution, that could potentially reset things as well.
Yeah, it's very sketchy to trust, specifically because they're starting up front, or vice versa. But the ownership will go to the back guys. There's a couple of interesting plays down here. Again, this 8K zone, I think, is going to be hard to really have a ton of exposure to, which is why I'm a little surprised to see sort of Keselowski and Buescher as highly regarded here as what they kind of look like. So talk to me about these two, especially Keselowski, who you've got a core play on, starting 24th, good play stiff upside, reasonable price point. Is he just like that guy that sticks out in this entire price range as, I can save some money and probably going to move from 24th to 10th or something?
I'll put it like this. Anytime there's tire wear on the menu, Keselowski feasts.
Okay.
He's a beast at tire wear races. And it kind of extends to Buescher. They're just safe, conservative race managers. And that type of play style, really bad at some tracks. I think it's really good at this track. I don't have as much optimism about Buescher, but his odds are significantly better than Keselowski. Keselowski has racked up top 10s at these types of tracks just consistently. They were both top 10 here last year. Not worried about the practice times, really. I'm a bit concerned about his odds drop, I guess. Again, I like the play on paper, of course. Personally, I'm literally just gambling on the punting all the way down and just jamming in studs. So I don't know if I'll probably be underweight on Keselowski overall, but I do think he'll be popular. And I do think he'll be a good play. He has a pretty decent price there, 7.7 on DraftKings.
He's got to be your third Dominator option in a lot of the more mid builds. I want to address MGS Hub's question. Should we set a minimum salary cap on DraftKings? And the answer is no, you don't need to, because the optimizer, if you're using it, is going to try to get the studs in you will not leave any salary over here. There's no salary. The best amount. So the only salary, Taco, my answer here is I would not ever dream of leaving more than 400-ish or so dollars in salary on the table on a slate, on a 400 or 500 at the most on a track like this. You want to put the better, more expensive drivers into your lineups.
There are a couple of exceptions. That's only because if you look at the 6K range, the gap between the viable plays are kind of huge. So there may be exception lineups where you leave 600-700 just because the difference between Nemechek and someone more expensive, like all the way up until you get to Suarez. Like there's just no good plays in between them, really. Or maybe a better example would be like the difference between Suarez and Keselowski.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if you just want to hedge from Keselowski down to Suarez, you may leave some salary on the table, but
it's not.
It's going to be hard to leave salary.
It's not a purposeful leaving of salary is the point. You're going to get into dead zones, and you'll have to pick like that one guy who's good in a dead zone. So you might leave a few hundred there. Max exposure for 20 max, dude. This is one, and I'm glad we have these kind of questions. This is not the track to get crazy with exposure, especially on the studs. I don't know how to pick one guy to go 50, 60, 70% on. I don't, Taco,
if you do, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, because if you're a really fast car up front, your DNF percentage is kind of low. You're kind of on the good side.
But we haven't identified that car that's like super likely, because there's too many options. I feel like for me, there's too many options. I love going all in on a driver. I love that. I like doing
They're pretty evenly projected.
Yeah, it's just a little too even up top. I think if I needed a 75%er, it's probably going to come from the back zone, more of the punt. Like, let's say you wanted, and we're about to get to a few of those. Maybe, guys, there's a few here. So, like, if you wanted to say, hey, Suarez, he's got a good team and he's starting 31st and he's kind of cheap. Now, it's good value. And let's say we broke this whole thing down and we said, that guy's really the best of them. And there's no one even, here we go. Like, if you want to just say, fuck it, I am rolling with Martin Truex Jr. on this track. Fuck you. Fuck everybody. If it doesn't work out, I don't give a shit. I'm going out to dinner with the family tonight. I don't care.
That was my strategy last year. The second the race got postponed to Monday.
Yes, that's right. I remember that, and that was
that's
awesome.
What we would do, but
we all did it, and it's totally worked. And it was like, Truex always wins on Monday. Fine, good enough for me. Let's go. But I don't see that. There is a guy I think you can go all in on though. Shane Mathis coming up in a second. He's an old guy.
Oh my god,
he's an old driver. He's coming back. He's absolutely dominated. It's like if Kevin Harvick came out of retirement, talk, he'd be all in. But now you're cognitive biasing.
He'd only be a year off. He's drove in this car.
He drove in a race a couple of weeks ago. He got his shit together, man. I'm the same age.
He did not get he got his shit spun out.
Yeah, he did.
Again.
All right.
I want to see him finish a race, but we'll get to him.
I like fading drivers. And here we go. We're in the fade zone over here, guys.
Yeah, but here's the problem I have with this slate is that everyone's going to fade these guys.
Everybody's fading these guys.
Everyone's fading these guys. It's so obvious. I want to fade Suarez and John Hunter Nemechek because they just glare at me. I think optimizers are going to love these guys.
That's why you play
Keselowski.
That's why
I think if I'm in a mini max type, I kind of just want to fade these motherfuckers and hope they get stuck laps down.
That's why we're going to fade those guys. And we're going to play Killer Priest and Jimmy. But the two guys that you can probably fade, or the three, I would say without too much concern, Gragson starting 5th, Chase Briscoe, love you, buddy, but not today, starting 7th, Josh Berry,
Berry's interesting.
He's no Harvick.
He's no Harvick. I don't know, man. Bowman, once he got in the 48, it's like he kept the magic of Jimmy Johnson going. But of course, that's not going to happen with Berry. But Berry is a good short track driver.
Not bad here. He is not bad here. That's fine.
Starting a little high, man. That's the only problem.
Overqualified. Austin Dillon he fucks your lineup every single track. I don't care where he starts. He's the Eric Almirola circa 2023 of 2024.
Don't do Almirola like that, man. Come on,
dude. Almirola had a full season of starting 30th and fucking us every single track. And
Austin Dillon had that season last year. He just kind of kept it going this year.
I got the wrong year on Almirola. I think it was 2022. But yes, he did that, and then Dillon has continued to do it ever since. Fuck him.
I'd say that Dillon's speed actually has fallen off, like for real, compared to the decade before, where he was consistently a top 15 guy. He's not doing well even at tracks that he's supposed to do well at. It's very concerning.
How much money do I need to lose on Austin Dillon? By the way, you know what? We're most of the way through this, so let me pause here and let everybody know that we have been on a killer run and DFS Army across all of our sports. And for those of you guys who are DFS Army, one thing I'm going to make a strong suggestion to do is check out the Prize Picks /underdog/sleeper channel, where they're giving out picks all throughout the day. We track it.
Okay. W. Lynn for the win.
Will Lynn is my spirit animal. That dude says jump. I was like, how high? How high? I'll just do it. Fine. He is a killer. Snipers out there popping out plays. Got the Proptimizer tool. So if you're a DFS Army VIP subscriber, if you get the full Monty, you have access to it, and you want to be checking that out. These guys have crushed. Let me pull up the old tracker, but we have a lot going on in DFS Army. Of course, MLB season going strong right now. So there's never been a better time to be a part of DFS Army and be a part of our community. I love being a part of it. I love the fact that everybody seems to know each other a little bit. And you know, I don't know. It really does kind of feel like a crew at times, and everybody roots for each other. And so check it out. Promo code Taco, 10% off VIP. Get in there now, and you get access to everything, including the Proptimizer. Look at what they're doing here, Taco. Last 7 days, you know, up 10% ROI. Last 30 days, pretty neutral. But year to date, the props crew up $8,000, $58,000 worth of tickets given out. These are low cost tickets. They 2/10 of a unit price point. They're up $8,000 for 2024, which is crazy. Up all time $18,000. This is if you just wanted the prop sub, it's $35 a month and access to the Proptimizer. But everything they do is tracked, and everything is given out, Taco, in a ticket. It's not like regular DFS where we don't really give out lineups because that's not allowed. But they're giving out tickets. You're just copying them, and you're up $8,000 for the year. This is a side hustle, borderline. Not really, but borderline a side hustle. So make sure if you're part of DFS Army, you are in those channels, following along with those guys. And if you're not, sign up DFS Army right now and get all of the awesome stuff that we do. And if you don't want to do any of that, at least subscribe to the channel, notification, share the video, do something. Do something. Just sit there. Do something. Help us out. All right. MGS Hub asks, what's the highest exposure to any driver? Taco, you got one?
Right now it's Truex for me.
Truex?
But it's like 45%. It's not crazy. I would love to go 60-70% on someone, but
no, that's pretty high.
I'll probably warm up to someone and get them past 50%. But yeah, I'll probably get Truex past 50%.
There it is. That's what we like to hear. The Discord's like a family.
Larson's really also like, goddamn. I want to play so much Larson. It's very hard to, but
I would love to go all in on Larson, but I mean at 11.5, it's, you know, he needs to dominate or you're fucked. So you need to be aware of the risks. I would rather, if I'm going to go heavy, I kind of would rather it be some of these types, but you haven't convinced me on any individual one. It might be Jimmy.
So here's the thing with Dover is like, when it comes to chalk, I would love to devour expensive like Dominator chalk, but there really isn't like any, like if there were like one or two plays that stick out like majorly, like Larson super fast on the pole or something like that, like I would just devour that chalk. But the cheap place differential chalk, that's what I'm really sus of and don't like. I'm definitely more interested in fading this chalk than the chalk up high.
But
I don't care that Larson and Truex are going to be really high owned.
To fade it means we got to play somebody. And, you know, you started out this breakdown telling me you want to kind of jump into this zone here so you can afford 3 studs. I don't know, right? So I guess that you are fading this place. Let's talk about who the chalk.
I don't even think it's a good strategy. It's literally just I think that's just where I'm going to get leverage.
Yeah, Wendy's asking Elliott Hamlin and Elliott. She's double Elliott's.
So I've won the brake pad a few times with a combination of Elliott and Hamlin, and now it's been my weekly tradition for like 4 or 5 years now to always play Elliott and Hamlin together in the brake pad. So, you know, if you're a real visionary, then I'm taking that brake pad once again. I don't know why. I just always like pairing those guys. So yeah, I'm down with that personally, but
I think Wendy was
they're
asking
both in great spots here.
Yeah, Hamlin. She's just saying, can I just go ham on?
Can we circle on back to Hamlin? we kind of talked about this group as a monolith. Like, I think that might also be, now that I'm thinking about it, really, like all the focus is going to be on Hendrick, but I kind of really like Hamlin because the more I think about it, I think he's just going to go over-owned. We've seen it a lot this season where a lot of the expensive good guys are popular, and then Hamlin kind of gets swept to the wayside, and he's always running top 5 every lap. If the field gets down to 5 people, damn sure he's going to be one of those 5 people.
The minute we start to sleep on Hamlin, that's when he dominates.
He'll be your favorite driver.
We've lived this enough times. Everybody thinks it's going to be Larson. Everybody thinks it's going to be Truex. It might not be. It could be one of these other guys. Somebody's going to have the fastest car. The problem is the practice didn't quite tell the tale, which means we're all in a mystery situation, including the odds makers, including everybody else. We don't know. That one driver is going to emerge with a faster car, or 2 of them that are going to be competing. One gets it, he's got to do a pit early. The other one's in there, and then the other one comes back. And we've seen these type of races play out enough times where, for me, I don't think I can get too extreme in terms of ownership for any of these guys. I'm going to mix it up on this top crew. Hamlin in the mix, fine. I might just go 30% across the board. I might actually just level them all out and make sure that hopefully there are some situations. I'm yet to see how 3 of these can fit in one lineup. You're going to show me at the end.
Yeah.
We're going to load up the...
I'll have to introduce you to my buddy that almost died yesterday.
Is that cat growling? Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to load it up at the end, but let's continue on. So we get through this sort of really ugly zone here, and you get to Daniel Suarez starting 31st overall, 34% ownership. He will be very, very chalky. Probably rightfully so. He's a good driver. 6,700, starting 31st. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think I made it clear what I think here.
You're one of faded.
I hope he hits the wall very hard.
Yeah. So your thought is this is tournament poison. Too high owned.
Guys starting in the 30s have not done well here. This is the ownership I'm very happy to fade.
There you go. So 34% owned.
And then we need to find options, obviously, for your famous guy.
I'm going to point up 2 guys who are low owned that I don't think are very different from Suarez, except like they have a 2 in front of their name instead of a 3, and for cheaper, somewhat cheaper. And that's Killer Priest and Jimmy Johnson, old man. Right? So what's wrong with Killer Priest? What's wrong with Jimmy Johnson, who has a Kevin Harvick-like record of domination at this place?
Yeah. That was back when we all had better hairlines. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Jimmy,
he finished the race in a Toyota ever.
He still got it.
Problem. That's I've just been on the train of just completely ignoring Jimmy Johnson, and it has worked beautifully. But man, this is the one track where you stop and think, man, he is so elite here. It'd be like if Kevin Harvick came back in a few years and it was Phoenix. You have to stop and really think like, ooh, this is some of the best track history like ever for a guy.
Where was I?
But we have seen him at a couple of tracks that he's historically crushed, and he sucked there.
Look at the track history.
Texas, for example. I mean, he spun out pretty early on.
Look at this,
great.
Taco.
We've seen him at like Martinsville.
Look at it. 1st, 3rd, 1st, 7th, 1st, 3rd, 9th, 8th, 7th, 3rd. That's as green as it gets.
Guess what team he was on? Not Toyota, not Legacy.
Shitting on Toyota Legacy now. I
will shit on Legacy though, just for this week because I'm also fading John Hunter Nemechek. So I mean, I guess I'll pick up some smoke with them. It's just what I'm doing.
Where were we?
But I'm probably just going to keep fading Jimmy Johnson. He could be a good play, I guess, because we have opined on you do want to play the veterans here. So this is the hardest test of my Jimmy Johnson fading. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're fading old. Like literally, we start off the whole thing talking about play the old dudes, and then the oldest guy of them all comes up, and you're like, nope, too old. I can't accept it. I don't accept.
Hadn't raced in a few years.
He raced a couple weeks ago. He knocked the cobwebs out.
And he knocked himself out.
Wendy Brown.
I digress.
Truex, Hamlin, Elliott. Yeah, you could play that trio together. You got play stiff upside with Truex and Elliott. You got early Dominator with Hamlin. If you could fit that trio together, old school, old dudes, everything about it seems great to me. Jimmy Johnson, though, playable, 10% owned. Killer Priest. What's wrong with Killer Priest? I don't know. He's awesome. He's a good wheelman.
I don't mind that one at all. I'm down for some Killer Priest because you do have to find an alternate options down here.
Killer Priest is the forgotten Wu-Tang Clan member, by the way. No one talks about Killer Priest. I'm trying to bring him back. Killer Priest.
Belladonna or
no, Killer Priest, man. You know what? Everybody forgets. They're all like Man, RZA, Jizza, Ghostface, Killer. What about Killer Priest? We're just gonna forget about his legacy? No. And Ryan Priest, similar. A lot of people talking about Carson. Oh, all right. Nemechek starting 31st. He's gonna suck in a lot of ownership as well. Taco, you want to fade this chalk?
Yep.
In tournaments, play him in cash.
Yep. I'm fading Suarez. I'm fading Nemechek for better or worse. And I don't recommend you follow me. That's just the boat that I am.
Is there any reason not to fade him? Is he good? Is he good here? Has he been good this year? Was he good on any track? What is the reason that I shouldn't fade? Well, I'll say this.
There's a very good reason for Nemechek. I'm not saying that Nemechek is a bad play. He's a great play, but he's going to be popular because he's a great play. The dude finished 6th at Bristol. That's one hell of a reason to play him. This is where I'm like torn. You know, I'm just my personal strategy just kind of goes against some common sense here. But again, I'm just super sus of these guys starting deep in the 30s. I think they're just going to get lapped. And if I want to do it this week, I want to be able to spend comfortably. Just go to the bottom.
It's really just a tournament scenario here where he's just high owned and starting towards the back, and there's probably a better chance than not that he finishes, 28th or something like that, or 27th, and doesn't do enough to get it done, a couple of laps behind, and you're watching him having an okay. So he's not going to finish in 34th more if he stays healthy, but if he, I guess math wise, if he doesn't, all right, let's figure this out.
He did come in at 100 to 1, and he's sitting at 200 to 1 right now.
34th to 20th. If he finishes in 20th place, that's about a 35-point run. Mm-hmm. It's pretty close to getting you there. You need it. It appears from past history that we need those cheaper guys. It kind of depends.
The cheap guys in this slate just kind of mostly suck. So the bar may be a little bit lower.
I do think it's going to be. I don't think we're going to have the reason Suarez and Nemechek are so high on is because they both have that top 20 potential from 30s that'll get you like a 35, maybe even a 40. And if they get that, they will be in the winning lineup too.
No, they're definitely willing to bend me over their knee.
Yeah, you could get burned.
They don't. I'm taking that risk today, baby.
Listen, fading chalk. You know what Bobby Wow would do. If we told him, hey, these guys are starting in the back, they're not that good, and they're going to be chalky, what's he going to do?
I unfriend you. That's not
right off the back.
Okay.
Wow.
A fade is not me playing 0%. I ain't friending the guy. I'm unfriending Austin Cindric. I'm unfriending AJ. I'm unfriending Daniel Hemrick, certainly. But I will be heavily underweight on the two guys I've.
Is Kaz going to be okay today? He just drove yesterday, got into a big accident.
He got into one hell of an accident. Did you see that, dude?
I did not watch.
That was an intense accident. I don't know. He may be shaken up, but we weren't playing him anyway. 1,000 to 1 coming in here. Kind of memeing with that, but I am going to be abusing this bottom range of 4 guys, including one of your all-time favorites in Corey LaJoie, who's ran really well here in the next gen car. He's ran 18th and 14th over the last 2 years.
Wait a minute.
And then I'm just running it back with his teammate Zane Smith.
Did you say
I could speed?
Did you say I could play Colo?
Yes, sir.
Boner
alert. Pause.
I got excited to play Colo. Yeah, this is a zone of low ownership. So this is the taco zone, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, you can call it that.
This is
the taco all these zone. Guys.
We're in the taco zone. We're under 5K. We're under 6K. We're with the crew who goes to the gas station to buy fried chicken. The taco zone. Because you like to go to the gas station to buy fried chicken.
is a guilty habit of mine.
Yeah. Colo, Todd Gilliland, Justin Haley, Zane Smith. Do these guys separate from one another at all, or it's all just the same play? Probably going to be some laps behind, but hey,
I mean, Haley and Zane are they're big risks with the 600 to 1, 500 to 1 odds here.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
How comfortable? How are these ownerships right? You're thinking 18% on these guys?
Dude, the thing is, like, we're paying 11.5 for Kyle Larson, 11.3 for Truex.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
In order to make things fit, these guys will get some ownership for sure.
So you think that the way that this just to take this all through, you're thinking the way that this track plays out is you'll have 3 of those studs putting up 70 plus kind of point scores. And in order to fit that, we're going to accept these turds who are not likely to put up more than 35 points or 30, where like a 28 or 26 or 31 from one of these type of drivers is acceptable because we got that third stud in there who put up a monster. Is that kind of the overarching build approach that you're thinking will work?
Yes. And one thing all 4 of these guys have in common with their teams is they've all gotten some new speed this year, particularly Gilliland. I do like the Gilliland play because front row is a little bit faster with this Penske help. We were starting to really see that. LaJoy, of course, LaJoy and Smith, Spire has got a little bit more speed this season, like notably, and LaJoy was already good at this track. Haley with our Rick Ware Racing is still a little bit sus, but he did have a really good run at Bristol. He ran 17th at Bristol, just kind of hanging out there at the end, but there was a lot more carnage in that race.
I'm about it. So the alt way of building would be to sort of get a little heavier on these guys, and Taco is absolutely saying that he's going to
not force 2 of them, but
more than no forcing, but more than 2 of at least 2 of these. Like you're not scared of having 2 of these guys in your lineup, and even maybe on occasion 3. So let's look at the let's pull up the old DraftKings screen here.
Yeah, I will say with those 4, I kind of like them in the inverse order of the ownership there. So I do like LaJoy and Gilliland a lot because I think they are legitimately better plays than Haley and Smith. And Haley and Smith are in like the most dangerous spots, being in the very, very back. They would kind of have to feast on there being carnage, which there typically isn't a lot of at this track. But the carnage we do see, of course, is like race ending. So they could, survive enough to get past like 10 people or so. I'm just banking that you just have to go to those guys in order to afford the ultra expensive dudes.
Dude, these guys are super unlikely to finish better than, I don't know, 27th or 26th. Yeah. That's your upside. Again, 36 to 26. It's more of a 25-point performance for somebody. So you're going to get a pretty low, or 26. You're going to get a pretty low score with these guys. You just have to hope.
Just hoping that whole range scores in the 25s, because then it would just go down to these guys being the best because they're the cheapest.
I would say
whatever below them is not playable.
I would say Colo and Gilliland actually have the ability to not finish, to actually hit 20th or even, that point, like to get more than a 25-point score if it works out well for them, if they just happen to have a little speed. So let's see how this looks. Okay, we're just gonna throw 3 studs in there. Okay, Elliott, probably the cheapest of the stud zone here for me.
Larson and Truex, do it.
Truex, and who was the other one?
Larson.
Hamlin. No, let's go Hamlin. Or Larson?
This is the fuck Hendrick line, I guess.
You're going all in?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
We still got 6K. That's perfectly right on the dot.
Jim,
for getting your John Hutch check.
You know what's happening with this lineup, right?
What?
I'm playing it. I just played it. I like it. So with 3 studs in there, though, you do have, and I'll go back to this, but with the 3 studs in there, you can make it work if you play 2 of these 5K turds and then a third.
Now we'll say the smarter lineup construction probably to just drop from a Chase Elliott type to like a Ty Gibbs type, a Brad Keselowski. That's the more optimal way to go about it. Absolutely.
let's see how that looks. So let's do this again. Again, we're going to put in Truex. We love Truex. We love Larson. I don't know that you want to have Truex and Larson in there together.
If they both lead the laps, it ain't going to matter what their salary is. You're going to need them no matter what.
We will have 14 together. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
In a ton of lineups. So here's some more middling play stiff guys like Ty Gibbs and Keselowski that I would say both of these aren't super likely to dominate, but they could get some domination points.
They have top 10 upside, like real legitimate top 10 upside.
Yeah. Not domination though, but top 10 will get you a nice score, but you still need a second dominator in this sort of a build. So who's our second dominator guy? Don't know. Let's just randomly pick one. And then we're down to 50-50. So yeah, the way it does work out, you're back here in the zone, at least one of these guys, and back on Jimmy. Oh yeah. I love it.
This is why I think John Hunter Nemechek should be very popular, because even Jimmy Johnson, I guess, because he just fits so perfectly in the end of a lot of these lineups. And
but isn't Jimmy or Killer Priest the perfect pivot off of John Hunter Nemechek? Yep. I don't mind Nemechek either, by the way. It's fine. Listen, I'm not going all out on a guy who's starting 34th, who was, been acceptably, if anybody, I know you want to fade this, but if anybody has a shot at not finishing at making his way up to the lead lap, I would say he could do it.
Well, he finished 6th at Bristol, but was not on the lead lap.
Yeah.
Didn't need to be.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah. Well, we can see that here. We've seen that a lot here.
I'm not fading it, dude. I'm not fading this, but I think what I'm going to do, I can't do it. I'm not
recommending playing exactly the way I am. Yeah. I'm just, the way I'm doing it is just finding leverage on a slate that's very hard to find leverage on. There are other ways to do it. It's just, if you just play all these chalk, like if you have a lineup that's like Nemechek, Suarez, Keselowski, and then like 3 good guys, like you're going to be tying with like 12 people. Is that fun?
I don't care about ties.
Yeah, but I mean, is just playing the chalk going to leverage you over the field any? Or are you just going to be in there with all the optimizers?
The issue is exactly what you're saying. Like if you're kind of loading up on these guys, it's just, they're going to be moving up. It's not going to help you that much. But if you load it up on Jimmy or Colo and they're doing well, all of a sudden your lineups are lap in the field. So if you pick the right one of these, that's one way. And just hope that the 3 studs that you have in your lineup are at least 2, the dominators. You need to accidentally have 2 of them in the lineup together. And good. My end call here is this. Let me clear this, and I'm just going to show this like we don't know which of this group is going to dominate all the laps. We could say Truex has been great here. He probably will get a little more of that. Larson is spectacular here and everywhere. Get a little bit of exposure. Danny Hamlin is great. Willie Byron is great. All these guys are great. Chase Elliott was dominating last week from a similar situation where he started far behind. Could do it again. So I'm going to be mixing these guys into my lineup. So I'm just going to have different versions, be Hamlin and Bell together, Hamlin and this and that. I'll just do a lot of different mixes of that group in the domination zone. And then, differentiation for me is going to really come from what you're talking about here, playing maybe some of these 5K guys and maybe, pivoting to Killer Priest or Jimmy over Nemechek, maybe looking at moving off of some of these other, like a Suarez, who I still also is good here. I don't mind Suarez if I have that amount. Suarez actually falls in a spot where there's a big gap of anybody you want to play all around him.
Yeah. See, my thinking is that just mathematically being able to go from a Ty Gibbs up to one of those elite guys up top, that difference is just better than the difference between going from like Keselowski down to like a much cheaper play. Like I think it just mathematically, that's how I see it working. Like I just want to get 3 of these ultra high projected plays in if I can get there.
I think
because the drop off is so huge.
Looking at these salaries too, it's like, Keselowski, even Bubba Wallace, he could sneak in there. He could sneak into that price. He finishes 7th. He could sneak in there. Keselowski can get there.
In this package last year, it's all it did was finish 7th.
It's not out of the realm of shit that could happen. That Wallace from 16 to 7 10 play stiff points, gets you 42, 43 for that price. That's enough. If you could fit the rest, like, let me show you something here. You get Wallace in there. You get your secondary cheap guy in there. We'll go with Jimmy again, but it could be Nemechek, right? You get your super cheap guy in there, and then you're back in the stud zone for 3 button smashes, really. Barely, but you can do Chase. We can do,
you would just need Bubba to be one of those big 3 that separate themselves, like we saw all over the place in those historical results. Or you would need it to just be a 2 Dominator, even 1 Dominator type of older Dover race, where like someone just leads most of the laps.
Here's
it would allow for a more tertiary guy to not be as much of a Dominator.
Yeah, if you're playing Bubba, you almost kind of want to play. So like I could see this approach with maybe Keselowski in there and Gibbs. And then so you get rid of that turd and you only have the 1, right? So Gilliland at 5K, fine. I got 1 turd in there, but now I've got Wallace, Keselowski, Elliott, Gibbs, and Hamlin, all, guys who could finish in the top 5 or top 7 or 8. So that this puts a lineup together that could win as well. So really interesting lineup construction due for this week. Love to hear that Will Roman played the optimizer straight. Taco, that's a testament to you and your projection model.
Yep.
Which happens a lot.
Work hard on it.
Again, there's no team like DFS Army NASCAR team. We've been tearing it up all throughout the season. How do you know? Look up in the tournaments that you're in and look at those DFS Army helmets at the top of the lineups. And by the way, if you're in DFS Army, make sure you get an avatar on your account. We want to root for you when we're watching these races, and we want to send you some swag when you win one. So that's what we do with DFS Army. If you got your avatar, if you're here on the DFS Army YouTube channel, you can grab the avatars, Google that shit, put it on your account, take a tournament down. We'll send you some swag. If you're not a member of DFS Army, you do that and just watch. If you're a YouTube subscriber, but not an actual DFS Army VIP subscriber and not a premium, we'll get you a premium sub when you do that, when you represent and take down a tournament. But it is really important to note when you watch NASCAR, there's a reason why DFS Army helmets are all up top. It's your projection model is awesome. The breakdowns, the research station, the tools, the cheat sheet, not just from you, but from Brady and Nilly as well. So make sure to check that out, guys. Any final thoughts here, Taco?
We need to pick a winner. I know we kind of avoided it because this slate is definitely more of a broader picture meta.
It's not just pick a winner. It's pick a worthy pick against the spread. Because you asked me to pick a winner, I'm picking Truex. He wins here all the time.
That's
but
fair.
who's a worthy
very
pick?
Fair.
Who's a worthy pick? Is it Truex?
I gotta throw Bowman in there just because of the. It's just a great week, I think, to leverage him. He's kind of a track history guy. This is like by far his best track. It's a great package for him. Hendrick, so dominant here, and he's just the cheapest one. I know he's priced up. FanDuel, he's so much more affordable and the better play over there.
I absolutely hate playing a guy like that.
I really like what I've seen out of Bowman at the last several tire wear tracks where it's been very important to manage the race, and that's just something he does. He loves sneaking up there at the end.
He has been good here, 5th place, 1st place,
but this is
third.
The main thing the main problem I have with Bowman week to week is the dude doesn't get fast laps. He actually gets fast laps at this track. It's kind of a green flag for me. I just wish he wasn't that expensive.
This would have been a good week for Bowman to be that his usual 8,300 price tag.
Yeah, but they know. Nice. They know he's good here.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin to surprise everybody and take it down. I've just been watching.
Well, you wouldn't be surprising me.
I got sucked in.
You'd be pissing off the crowd, which I'm a fan of.
That Netflix show, I've been watching it.
Yeah.
And it's like Jimmy's quest for a championship, and I'm now invested in it. I want to see it happen this year. So yeah, did Brady? Let's see if Brady had a guy. Hang on, I'm gonna keep Brady's cheat sheet for the subscribers only. Here, they get the taco sheet. No Brady.
I think he's a Truex believer this week.
Yeah, it's Truex for Brady this week. 7.5 to 1, so same odds as Hamlin. Dooley, if you wanna get that.
He also his big play that kind of separates him. He's also a Priest believer, but Chris Buescher, he's a big Chris Buescher supporter.
He loves Chris Buescher on this.
Which makes me interested in Buescher, because I wasn't all that interested in Buescher, but I'm willing to hear him out. I do agree that RFK is in a good spot here.
Just says Buescher's good on short, steep tracks. So all right,
that is true. He's like a track type guy too.
He likes Haley.
He doesn't like the short flat tracks.
This one's interesting.
Mm-hmm. A's with me. I like that.
He prefers Haley in the turd zone to these other guys.
Yep. See, I believe in Zane Smith because I believe in him as like a talent, and like he's a very conservative, safe driver, and that's kind of what you're looking for here.
I don't know. My pick from that range. So I'm going to go on record here because we've all gone on record. Obviously, I love Colo. I don't even want to count him here. Colo would be my favorite, but it's Colo and Gilliland for me above Haley and Zane Smith.
Yeah, I mean the odds would definitely want you to do that.
That helps.
And just the history of the track just being so punishing to these guys starting the very back.
Yeah, plus Gilliland has looked good this year and has actually had great runs, as has Colo.
Yep.
We've seen these guys even in intermediate tracks like top 20. So I'll take it. All right. We were supposed to wrap it up a while ago. We'll wrap it up here. Good luck today, everybody. Let's crush another NASCAR Cup Series race. We got about an hour and a half till race time. So hopefully you watched the shit live. And if you didn't, hopefully you were wise enough to put it in 1.5x and speed up our slow cadence here. So good luck, everybody. I got a lot of lineups to make. So we'll see you guys next week on the Fast 40. Deuces.
Helmets up.